Hi, JJ here from 22 Explosive Hits. This is a special edition for my channel. I'm here with Rich Strickler, and he's here to assist me with we're going to do a Dylan top 10. Now, I want to emphasize it's basically how we're feeling today. Dylan has a catalog that's just extensive. It goes out picking 10 songs. I think it's more like how you're feeling today or this moment with his songs. Music's very personal that way. So this is our top 10 as far as we go, but I think we kind of a cool discussion being that me and Rich have a little bit of age difference, and our perspective on Dylan is probably a little bit different than each other. So I think it's going to be a really good discussion. So welcome to my channel, Rich.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great.
Oh, no problem.
Great to be here.
So
love doing it.
Great. Top 10 Dylan songs. Let's start off. What is your number 10?
My number 10 is probably one of his longer songs. That's Desolation Row.
Okay.
From the Highway 61 album. And I just picked this for the epic nature. I have no idea what it's about. It's one of these abstract Dylan songs that you have to interpret, and that's what he's good at. I'm not smart enough to figure this one out. I mean, it's got so many references in it from any. I just listed like 10 of them: Cinderella, Cain and Abel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He works all these folks into the lyrics: Einstein, Robin Hood, Shakespeare. He mentions the Titanic, Casanova, many more. It's 11 minutes and 21 seconds, but it's brilliant. Just sitting down with a lyric sheet and listening to it, and the rhyming scheme and everything, it just works for me. And that's probably his favorite album of mine is Highway 61 Revisited from 1965. That and Blonde on Blonde are so close for me.
Okay.
Flip a coin, but that's the song I picked at number 10 because I couldn't leave it off.
Okay. The song I picked for number 10 is Things Have Changed. I really liked, I thought it was a really good Dylan comeback song. That band that he was with, I saw them live in 2002. That band he's with, I thought really kind of peaked him out and really improved his sound. But the lyrics to the song really fit. It had a really good rhythm to it, really good. I think he has a really good beat, and the lyrics are really deep on that song. And he got an Oscar for it, and he totally deserved it. And a long time coming kind of reward for him. So that's my number 10.
Very interesting, because that's my number 9. Things Have Changed.
Okay.
I love I love that movie, The Wonder Boys too, with Michael Douglas and Frances McDormand, Tobey Maguire. It's a cool movie. It's about a writer or a college professor, and Dylan really did a great job on summing up a lot of the attitude in the movie in the song. So it's like a burned out feeling. I'm worn out from life, tired of all the crap that's going on. And like you said, the musical arrangement is so upbeat. It's got great musicians playing on that one too. It's cool that you got to see them during that time, right?
Yeah, it was. I was right in the front row.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was general admission, and we happened to be the first ones in the door. We just planted ourselves right down in front, and it was right there. Just a side note, I remember at dinner with my buddy before the show, I said I really want him to do Along the Watchtower. He's like, he has not been doing Along the Watchtower. That's a rarity. And guess what he did? He did Along the Watchtower. He's like, how'd you know that? I go, well, I just said I wanted to hear it. I didn't know he was going to perform it. But yeah, just a side note with Dylan is that I always felt like his band moved in phases. Like he had the band, and then in the 80s. Now, I was telling Rachel, and she had a different perspective on this, but from my perspective, when he came around the 80s and I saw him with my parents or whatever when I was younger, he always used the house sound systems, and it just didn't resonate at all because he was using house sound systems and he didn't have that kind of band. But then once he did, I have it right here, the MTV Unplugged, and hooked up with this band right here, and I felt that was kind of, he repeaked at that moment in time. So this is kind of a side note I wanted to make.
Can I throw a couple lyrics in here from Things Have Changed that I like?
Sure, go ahead.
I love, first of all, the chorus sums up the feelings. People are crazy, times are strange, I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range, I used to care, but things have changed. And through the song, he goes, I've been walking 40 miles of bad road. If the Bible is right, the world will explode. I've been trying to get as far away from myself as I can. Some things are too hot to touch. The human mind can only stand so much. You can't win with a losing hand. Feel like falling in love with the first woman I meet, putting her in a wheelbarrow and wheeling her down the street. I mean, that's just insane. And there's some references he takes in here from that 40 Miles of Bad Road is an instrumental song from Dwayne Eddy in 1959. So he borrows that, he fits that into the song where it applies. And the same thing with there's a lyric in here where it says sapphire tinted skies. That was a Percy Bysshe Shelley poem from the early 1800s. So he's not shy about taking other works of art, little blurbs here and there, and mixing them into his songs. And that abstract quality makes it really interesting, I think.
Yeah, that's a really deep insight on that. I like that. Yeah, I never realized where he actually got those lyrics from. That's really cool. Yeah, it's great insight. My number 9 is Blowing in the Wind. That's why I mean, it's I mean, how many roads does a man walk down, before they call him a man? And the lyrics is really really deep. I actually don't remember him singing as much as a kid, as my parents were really into Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I remember them doing their rendition of the song more so than I actually remember his rendition of the song. I do have it on I picked up this at Half Price Books, this biograph, and actually hearing his version of it is just it's just resonating and really kind of, I remember my mom telling me as a kid, because I remember hearing Dylan for the first time I ever heard Dylan was on We Are the World. And I just remember kind of giggling to that part, going, who the heck is that guy? I mean, like, who's that guy that says sounds weird, Mom? And she's like, that's Bob Dylan. And I'm like, how did this guy become popular? And I mean, she had to kind of resonate in my mind. And then, then she had me, read the lyrics and listen to what he had to say. And this poem is just resonates so well. It came out at a time during the Vietnam, and it was just perfect definition of his abstract way of defining what was actually going on, and a way to say what you need to say with some deep poetry and some deep lyrics. So that's why I picked Blown in the Wind for number 9.
Yeah, we're pretty much in unison here. I've got Blowing in the Wind at number 8.
Oh, wow.
And pretty much the same reasons. It became like a 60s anthem for civil rights, the Vietnam War, the assassinations, everything that happened during that turbulent decade. That song was like in the background for all those events. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. I mean, I'd like the Peter, Paul, and Mary version as well. I grew up with that in the early, my parents had that record. My parents are probably older than yours, but they had that record, and I remember listening to it. The first time I ever heard Dylan was not We Are the World. It was Lay Lady Lay, which came out in 1969.
Great song.
I was 12 years old at that time. I missed the first wave of Dylan when he was cracking in the early 60s because I was too young. But when Lay Lady Lay came out, I think it reached number 12 or something on the charts. I was one to follow the charts. I loved the top 40 back in those days. I kept my own little journal, and the voice was different. It was a great song. And then I began to notice, looking back, that he had written songs for or songs were covered by other groups like the Byrds, the Turtles, Sonny and Cher. And I kept seeing Dylan as the songwriter. I'm going, oh my God, this guy must be fantastic. And then later you go back and discover the catalog. But he showed up on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, the song If Not For You. George did that. That was another reason I saw
Exactly.
Yeah. So he wrote so many songs that he either discarded or never really put out as singles, but other people did, and they had massive success with them. So
right.
Just incredible. But Blowing in the Wind is timeless. It's been covered. Stevie Wonder did a cover of it, I remember, as well, and so many people. I just love the song, but it had to make my list. It's too great not to.
Right. Yeah, on a side note, I didn't have a lot of money as a kid, and for I would listen to Casey Kasem's Top 40 to make my mixtapes because I knew they would have the songs in order, and I would sit there with my cassette deck waiting and then hit record really fast on the radio and make my mixtapes that way.
Very cool.
So my number eight. My number eight is Hurricane. I really liked. I thought he really, he helped a guy who he believed, was innocent and stepped up to the plate, and it was really cool with Dylan to do that. But the lyrics are just, it tells a story and it tells the way it happened. And but the violin part on that song to me, and the band that plays in the background of that song, really helps to add to that story that he's telling.
Yeah.
And that's really in essence what he's doing with that song, is telling the story of the hurricane and what actually happened to him, and to make known his story. And I thought that was really cool of him to do so. And as we all know how it worked out, he ended up being let out of jail, and spent the rest of it. The hurricane spent the rest of his life trying to free others who were in the same situation. So that's my number 8.
That is a great one. I don't have it on my list, but it definitely made my honorable mentions. I like that song a lot. The more I hear it, the more I like it. In the beginning, I thought, and then I delved into the lyrics, like you're saying, and it does tell a great story. My number 7
Okay.
is another one of these, timeless kind of songs of his. The Times They Are a Changing, the title track from the '64 album. This is another one that was used in protests, and it's a message song, a call for people to wake up. The times
Right.
they are a changing. Come gather around, people, wherever you are, all that stuff. I mean, it's perfect for the '60s. You hear it on soundtracks in a lot of the movies that take place in the '60s. It kicks off the hippie movement in a way.
Hmm.
People they're not satisfied with the way things are going. They want to make change, and it can even apply in later day. It applies to 9/11 if you look at it. I mean,
Right.
the times they are changing.
Yeah.
Wake up, what are we doing? And he wrote this when he was like 22 or 23 years old. He had so much foresight. Uh, you could see things that were going to happen if they weren't already happening. It's just unbelievable, the genius that he had. And he's one of a kind, let's face it. I mean, nobody else has lyrics like this.
No, not at all. And the couple honorable mentions of using that song, and I do have it later on my list. One is in the movie Watchmen. I thought it was amazingly, they've used it really well in the opening of that song. And then the other one was actually one of my favorite artists, Billy Joel, used it when he was in the Soviet Union,
That's right.
and
Yep.
he sang it on Russian television as like, because he saw it as too that their times were changing, and he was like at the beginning of all that stuff, and that
That's
actually
right.
before Mikhail Gorbachev left power and all that, he was at the beginning of that. So that was really, that song's,
That was
yeah, it's been used a lot.
that was before the wall came down, right? That was
Yep.
had to be. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first rock concert to come to the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
The next one I picked for my number 7 is Knocking on Heaven's Door. That song, again, used in movies. Guns N' Roses did a really good version of it.
Yeah.
They used it really well. Again, we're both movie buffs, so I reflect on how it's used in film. In Lethal Weapon, they used it really well as well when Riggs was apparently dying. I guess in the script originally they wanted him to die, but then the studio said no. But they used that song really well with Knock on Heaven's Door. I think one of his best ballads, and the lyrics are just really deep, and just, again, that's the thing with the Dylan, is that the words just pour out like gold every time, most of the time that he sings. I think that's why people don't mind the voice, or don't mind how he presents it, because what he's saying is just so deep.
Exactly. And just to comment on that, it was in the movie Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which I just recently saw about 2 months ago for our westerns we were doing on our channel.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1973 movie. Dylan's actually in the movie as an actor, and he did the whole soundtrack. There's other songs in that are pretty good as well, but that is the main one, Knocking on Heaven's Door. So I'm glad it showed up on your list. My number 6 is from Blonde on Blonde, the track Just Like a Woman.
Wow, that's a good one.
Timeless masterpiece, I think. I like this little summation of the woman he's talking about in this song: her fog, her amphetamines, and her pearls. I mean, you can see that the woman is either on drugs or in a stupor somewhere. She's on amphetamines and her pearls. She's dressed up. You know, just a couple lines, you can see who he's talking about. It's poetic. He took a lot of heat, I think, for misogyny on this, but I don't know. He's an artist. He's trying to write what he's seeing in front of him. I mean, it's got a killer harmonica at the end too, musically. At the very end of it, it just and just jamming away. It could. The rumor was it could be about Edie Sedgwick, who was this hippie socialite, or it could have been about Joan Baez, who he had a romantic liaison with at the time. So he never tells you about it. It's up to you to figure out what's going on and who the target may be or who the poem is about. But I love the song. Every time it comes on, I'm hooked, just like a woman, but she breaks just like a little girl. Great
Good
stuff.
pick. My number 6 is Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35.
Yep.
Creative way to come up with a title, because and he got radio play with it, and
Yeah.
it's a fun song because we all know what the hell he's talking about, but he says it, he uses it in a way too to kind of show creatively, one, everybody must get stoned, and we know the whole marijuana thing, everything else, but he uses the lyrics really creatively, is that about how you're kind of tortured and how you're kind of beat up, and everybody must get stoned, and kind of takes that stone and kind of moves it around to a point where I think it's just really creative. And again, by having that title, he got radio play, because if he had called it Everybody Must Get Stoned, it would have been banned in every city, but he
That's
got
right.
it through by putting out that weird title. It's kind of fun actually, because only real Dylan fans know. If you say put on Rainy Day Women, and then they're like what, and you're like, oh, Everybody Must Get Stoned. Oh, I know that song.
Oh yeah, that one.
It's kind of funny that the song is not titled that, but everybody thinks that it's called Everybody Must Get Stoned, and that's not the title. So I always thought that on Dylan's part, that was really creative in the way he released that song and got airplay on it. And it's a fun song, and I really think that, again, his use of words is amazing, and his use of the English language is, I think he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest poets ever from our era, because the way he spills the lyrics when there's just no other lyricist that can spill out lyrics the way he can, to the point where they're like poetry and not just song lyrics.
Right. Yeah, you can read them as poetry. For example, I have this book here, Bob Dylan lyrics.
Oh, cool.
And all his this only goes up through 85, but
okay,
it's got everything in here. You can just sit down and read it as poetry. You don't even need the music with it, but I mean, the music helps.
Right.
But you're right. My number 5 is off of Blonde on Blonde, also Visions of Johanna.
That's a good one.
I love this song. Every time you hear it, you can interpret it differently. I think there's something that pops up and you go, well, I don't know if he's talking about this or that, or I always thought that he was at a hippie party, like a Warhol-esque party, and he's observing the people in the room. Could be an LSD trip. He's making love with a woman named Louise, but he has visions of Johanna in his head. So it's kind of one of these dreamlike, Dylan-esque kind of tunes, man. It's just,
right.
It works on you, and it's perfect for the mid 60s when, things were happening with drugs and these the free love and that type of thing that was going on at that time. I think he captures it a lot in this song, and it had to be on my list. So I put it in the top 5 at number 5.
My number 5 is Subterranean Homesick Blues.
Great one.
Great song. Fun video actually for the song.
Yeah.
It's like a mini little film that he did, and he a lot of people have kind of duped it. Actually, it's kind of fun. That I think you should take. I think Dylan does take. How do I put it? He does take homage when people like either imitate his stuff or come close to his stuff. He doesn't go after them. I think he takes that. Ooh, you're doing my stuff. And a lot of people. REM, other band, REM, even I would say Billy Joel, other people have done this similar type of use of lyrics and really fast with the words. But it's the way he put it together, I think, is one of his deepest songs. and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good one. Love it. My number 4 is Positively Fourth Street, a single that he released between Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde. There, and the title is nowhere in the lyrics, so he's just Positively Fourth Street. It's kind of negative in tone, accusatory in nature. It's kind of nasty. Some of these, he's got some anger at somebody. Not sure who it is. Could be the critics, could be an ex, could be people that ripped him for going from folk to more of a rock electric to
Yeah, he did
vibe.
catch a lot of flack for that.
He caught flack for that, so he's coming back and saying some nasty things about people. The Fourth Street reference, there's two theories on here: the Fourth Street in Greenwich Village, or the University of Minnesota, where he is from, is located on a cross section of Fourth and another street. So I don't know why he picked that particular title, but there's got to be a reason. And I'm just trying to see if there's any particular lyric I have here that I should focus on. Positively Fourth Street. Well, you know as well as me, you'd rather see me paralyzed. Why don't you come out and scream it? I mean, he's just nasty. You're dissatisfied with your position and your place. Don't you understand? It's not my problem. I mean, he's just one rip at somebody after another in that song. I love it. Different for him, and it was a single too. I think it was recorded during Highway 61. It didn't make the album, and they put it out as a single before Blonde on Blonde, the next album, came out.
Good choice. Number 4, I picked All on the Watchtower. I I love it. I loved well, Jimi Hendrix just took the song to the next level, let's face it.
Yeah, I think so.
But his version of it, All on the Watchtower, what's interesting is that the original recording, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, it's a good recording, great lyrics. But when he did it later, again, I'm going to go back to this. We did it on this MTV Unplugged with this band, and then once I got that same band was the one he toured with for a while. Amazing version where I think he actually kind of added that whole rock sound to the song. But again, the lyrics, there must be some kind of way out here. It's just it speaks of a lot of anger. It speaks of a lot of trapped, feeling trapped, and it's just really a really deep lyrics that had to make my list.
Yeah, it's a great one. I like the Hendrix version slightly better, but Dylan wrote it, so you got to give him respect for that. It's a great song. My number 3 is A Hard Rain's A Gonna Fall.
Oh, good song.
I just love this. This could have been easily number 1, but I had to put it high up on my list. It's powerful, loaded with symbolism, frightening imagery all the way through. There's rumor it may have been inspired by the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, which is interesting. I read that. Very apocalyptic when you go through the lyrics with all the bleak imagery of the world and stuff raining down. It's like what do they call that? Acid rain almost after the bombs hit. Just nasty. And yet in some of the parts of the song, he delivers some optimism, some hope. One line in particular: I met a young girl who gave me a rainbow. After he's going through all this dread and dreck, and then at the end he goes, I met a young girl, she gave me a rainbow. It's like, hang on to that, it's an interesting song, and that's been used in movies. I think it was in the Tom Cruise Vietnam movie.
Born as I was just going to mention, have you heard that was Edie Brickell that did the version for that movie? And
yeah,
you could really tell that based on what you're saying, and we're going to go to movies, is that scene when he's meeting up with the girl and all that happening, and it's kind of crashing down. It was obvious Oliver Stone picked that particular song and kind of fit that scene so well. But if you had the soundtrack, Edie Brickell's is an amazing version of that song.
Yeah,
I believe it was Edie Brickell that did that one off that soundtrack.
Right.
Again, to go back, my number 3 is Times They Are Changing. We talked about it before, but again, time moving piece that a lot of people reflect on when there's a major shift in our country or major shift in another country. They use it as a way to kind of define what's actually happening. And here again, Dylan writes songs that are timeless, and that's what makes him so brilliant and so amazing, that we don't just say, oh, his songs are in a bubble in 1960 something. They move along with the times, and I think, in my opinion, they will continue to move with the times,
Oh, absolutely.
even well after he's gone off this earth. And he's going to be, my kids and kids will be reading his poetry in English classes still and everything else. So that's one of those songs I think he'll just be known by.
Yeah. Very good. My number 2 is Tangled Up in Blue.
Good
from
choice.
Blood on the Tracks from 1975. He's got so much packed into this song. This is storytelling 101 for me. Again, the vivid imagery, the great rhyming scheme. It's like, I don't know, essentially a novel encapsulated into about 5.5 minutes. He's got this story of traveling and different. I'm Montague Street, and he goes into a diner, and he's just, you're following him along for the ride. It's one of the better examples of Dylan's poetic genius, I think. I love that song.
Good choice. Next one that I for my number 2 is To Make You Feel My Love. It's one of my classic songs that I love. I love of his. It's a great love song, great love tune. It just flows very, very, very well. And again, I've heard it a ton. It made my list, I think, because I heard it a ton of times. Sung on the Billy Joel Greatest Hits Part 3 has sung a ton of times. But the lyrics for that one really, have always been one of my favorite songs. A kind of a go-to song for me for when I go to Dylan, and so that's why I picked that for number 2.
Great. My number 1, I had to put it at number 1.
Drum roll. No.
But
Yeah.
like a Rolling Stone. I just think it's the song of his career. Very influential in the rock era, when he's going from the folk to the electric, and a lyrical masterpiece. It's unconventional for the time. It was a 6-minute record. It got played on the radio, actually reached number 2 on the charts. And that was the time when the Beatles and the British Invasion and the Beach Boys and Motown dominated the radio.
Right.
And here comes Dylan with this hit record. It sounds like nobody else. And word is, it inspired the Beatles to get a little deeper, and they wrote Rubber Soul and Revolver, which in turn everybody else followed suit and got deeper with their lyrics. The Beach Boys put out Pet Sounds, and then the Beatles come back with Sgt. Pepper, the whole rivalry thing. The Byrds took off and formed that California folk rock sound. So Dylan had a big influence of what went on later in the 60s. Everybody was covering his songs or imitating them. And I think a lot of it goes back to that album and that particular song, Like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah, I think it was also Dylan-esque, is very influenced when you talk about the Beatles. Hey, you got to hide your love away off the Help album.
Yes.
Lennon was the one that said that was totally a Dylan influence. And my mom used to put it that Lennon singing Dylan, and you actually can understand and you comprehend the lyrics. My mom used to joke about that. I was a kid. So my number 1, surprise, Like a Rolling Stone. And I just want to say a story about that one. I've seen Dylan tons of times. A lot. And I did see Dylan open for Paul Simon on a tour back in 1999. I saw him on July 4th at, we have a big festival here. You may or not heard of it. It's called Summerfest. It's been around since the 60s. It's a huge music festival they do every year here in Wisconsin. And I mean, big name acts come to that thing. Anyways, is that during the Dylan set, all the younger people were like getting beers, and you could just see them running around getting beers, just kind of walking through, and you're like, dude, I'm trying to watch Dylan. And they wouldn't, they're just like all over the place. It was all the young people. It wasn't all the other crowd was kicking back watching the Dylan concert.
Mm-hmm.
But when he hit the song Like a Rolling Stone, I watched a ton of kids flip around, even standing where they were. They stopped to hear this song by him, and they all just started singing along. They became one huge at Marcus Amphitheater sing along of that particular song. So that kind of, to me, I'm saying that's how that song resonates, I think, with everybody and that era. Now, I can't say resonates with my kids, because if I put Dylan on in my car, my kids say, "Turn it off, Dad." So, but with that group of people, I remember back in '99, that was like the best way I could actually envision this song. And that's what explains about this song, is that it's timeless. It is the lyrics are really deep. Like you said, he has a 6-minute airplay, but it is one of those songs that encapsulates every generation. It just
Yeah.
moves them. And it's the one song that, he'll do and everybody just stops what they're doing and has to listen to it because it is such an amazing song. And it's fun, and it actually goes really, really deep in the lyrics if you really actually sit back and
Yeah.
listen to it, which is like all his songs. So that makes it really fun. So what do you have for honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions. Let's take a look. I have them here somewhere. Sorry. I had a ton. I had 25, and I'm not gonna read 25.
His catalog is huge, dude. We
Yeah.
both knew this going into this.
Well, I had to put Lay Belay in there. I like this song he did with Johnny Cash too.
Okay.
Girl from North Country. I like that one. Knocking on Heaven's Door. Forever Young. There's 2 songs off of Blood on the Tracks. Simple Twist of Fate and Shelter from the Storm. I really like. Hurricane. Not Dark Yet. The latest one, Murder Most Foul. That was an interesting song off the last album.
Right.
I like that too. Mr. Tambourine Man, of course. With God on Our Side. I love that song. My Back Pages, It Ain't Me, Babe, Tombstone Blues, Rainy Day Women. I mean, that's all. You can go on and on. It's just ridiculous how many great songs he has.
Yeah. My honorable mention was Gotta Serve Somebody, just because it's kind of different from what he had going on there.
Yeah.
Kind of his God phase. And if we bring it circle to my channel, that's the one that it's on KTEL Records back there on my collection. Mr. Tambourine Man was also an honorable mention. Another one that I loved, especially when the Dead does it, is when I Paint My Masterpiece. So those are probably my honorable mentions that I have out there. But I just want to, if you don't have anything else, I just wanted to thank you for doing this with me today. And
My pleasure.
I really appreciate you. I know it's morning and you had to get up to do this, and I appreciate it. And again, this is kind of how we feel today. I have a hunch if you and I went back a month later and did the top 10, it would be different. It's always, I think music is how we're feeling that time. But I think it's great to have a discussion with someone that, to have a different perspective on Dylan. So I want to thank you. I just want to do my usual thing here I do on my channel.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here today. And I just want to remind the violent community, let's bring each other up rather than bring each other down. Have a great day.
Take care.